Meeting. All right. And then I'm just going to run through attendance really fast, and then I'll give it over to Maria to start the intro and welcome. And so I'm just going to go through the list. So we have Daniela from Water Resources. She's my alternate and she's taking minutes today. Thank you, Daniela. We have Russ Kramer, alternate for City Clear Lake. We have Bonnie Sharp from City of Clear Lake, program coordinator representative.
That would be Lakeport.
Lakeport, sorry. It even says it, I just read it wrong. Okay. Supervisor Eddie, EJ Crandall from County Lake. And then his alternate Bruno Sabatier, also for County of Lake. And from City Lakeport, Jenny Byers, alternate for Bonnie Sharp. Coordinator representation from City Clear Lake, Kylie Clark. County of Lake, Marina Delajanis, representative. So I apologize. Supervisor Eddie Crandall and Bruno alternate are for Watershed Protection District. Correct? Yes. And then City of Lakeport, elected official representative Maria Turner. And then we have two citizens, it looks like Terry Lochin from Scott Valley, Bandapomo Indians, and Betsy Kahn of Central Public Information Center. And then we also have a county stormwater enforcement inspector participation, Todd Elliott. I think that's everybody. If I didn't say your name, please let me know. Okay, just want to be effective with the attendance. Thank you all. And then I'll turn it over to Maria if you want to start the intro and welcome. And the meeting is being recorded now for minutes and for posting on our website.
Super. Thank you very much. So it sounds like Angela pretty much did the intro part. So I'll just say welcome. We've got a full agenda. So let's keep our comments concise if possible. And we'll move on to the first one, action item approval of minutes from November 18th, 2021.
There we go.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 18th of 2021 as presented.
I, Marina Delajanis, second the motion.
I'm Russ Kramer, by the way.
Super. Thank you. Before we go ahead and vote on that, was there anybody from the public who wished to have any comment on these minutes? Hearing no response, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Angela, do we do roll call vote on these meetings?
So we
just-
don't. We've done just yay or nay or thumbs up, thumbs down. Last time at the meeting, your alternate Michael Green instilled the roll call. Wanted us to do roll call. So if we
All right, well, we're walking away from the roll call, but
Okay.
let's try the thumbs up thing. So if you go down to reactions, there's a thumbs up. If you vote aye, let's do, yeah, reactions. It's what it looks like on my computer. It's down in that bar that sort of animates if you scroll down there. There's an up thumb. Just do up thumb just for fun.
I don't know.
All right, well, just put your thumb up, Russ. That'll count.
Well, I can't, I'm not showing myself on here, so I got to find that too. Oh,
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Never mind. We're gonna forget that. Let's go by voice vote. All those in favor of approval of the minutes say aye, please.
Aye.
I,
Is there anyone opposed?
Aye.
That was an aye. That doesn't count as opposed. Good. Then that motion passes.
Rhea, if I may interrupt.
Bruno?
Yeah, I just want to let you know, I learned this from Supervisor James Gore at our CSAC conferences because there's so many people to go through and we're all on Zoom. Maybe asking for who opposes, because usually it's very little and you'll hear them very loudly. And if it's none, then it obviously passes.
I will do that with the next one. Thank you. All right, next item, consideration of any items not posted to today's agenda. We do have one item already listed, the cache fire and was that water quality updates?
Yeah, I actually have two, but I wanted to open it up if anybody else wanted.
Yeah, that's good, because if it's written there, isn't it kind of posted on our agenda?
Yeah, I just like to give you guys a heads up.
Is there any other items then of interest for the body that were not posted on today's agenda? Angela, do you see any hand raising, gesticulating, anything?
Nope.
Okay, good. So we'll go to that one that is written there, cash fire and water quality updates.
And I just want to do a PowerPoint check. Everybody can see the screen okay, right? And there's no anything. Okay. So I did an update the last meeting, and we had one more sample event after that in December and 13th. So I added that photo so you guys can see here. This is what Cache Creek looks like during the September. This is before we had any of those storm events. And then October, after we had that atmospheric river, which was like our only source of rain so far this year. And then December 13th, we had a sample event in November. I didn't get a photo of that, but it looked very similar. It was very low. And so that's at December 13th. You can see very low water in there, not much flow at all. However, I do know that site went through some cleanups. And so here's a photo to the bottom right that I wanted to share of post cleanup. And then you could see the creek behind it. So that's why I picked that photo. From being there right after the fire, the week after the fire, to seeing it now cleaned up, it looks great. I think they did a really good job on the cleanup. I'll let Russ add anything if he wants about the cleanup before I go into just some water quality results really quick.
Cleanup is virtually done. I think there's one property that I don't know whether they haven't been able to get permission to get into it or what, but that's the only one that last time I was down the road that had not been cleaned up. It's on the north side of Dam Road, not on the creek side. So that's all I have.
Yeah, I think they did a great job. It looks really good. And so we just saw of the water quality results, nothing of too much concern. There were some basic things that were slightly elevated that popped out. Things like hardness, calcium, magnesium, iron, and aluminum. Those are all standard for post-fire events. And actually some of those things are pretty prevalent in our system naturally. So what we're going to do is, of course, at the end of the season, the end of the storm season, whatever that is, usually it's at the end of March is when we have our end of our storms, is we'll compile all the information together and see if there was anything different within the fire zone and the ambient. So this year we have those other streams monitored as part of our monitoring program. So it'd be great to have that as baseline to see what are the baseline ambient levels of aluminum, magnesium in these creeks, and then what is something that could be attributed to fire. So that's the plan for that. We did see increased total dissolved solids conductivity in this, like up 300 versus the previous sampling during the November sampling, but it went back down in December. So again, that's something we're gonna have to look at if that was just across the board during that sample event. Everything kind of increased with the stuff that's in the water, which is conductivities like salts, ions, cations, and then dissolved solids is a representation of that as well. Are there any questions about that before I go to the next item? And then we want to thank the State Water Board for paying for the monitoring, as well as the Yolo County government. They put in about $10,000 to pay for some of this monitoring work too. Okay, so this other item consideration for that's not on the agenda. I brought this up at a meeting, I think like a year ago, but we're finally getting more traction on it, is the stormwater resource plan. And so we're going to have probably a proposal and wanted to see if there was interest in having a presentation for this in the next meeting. If the co-permittees are interested in supporting this or kind of putting in on this plan. So what this plan is you need a stormwater resource plan to get any Proposition 1 funding or other types of funding through the state, which we currently don't have. So there's been a lot of stormwater infrastructure funds we've not been able to get because we're not eligible because we don't have this plan in place. And basically this is a planning document and it really identifies and points to how you can use stormwater as a valuable resource. So not just something that we try to get out of our urban areas as fast as possible and push it to the lake as fast as possible and then out through Cache Creek into the ocean. We want it to see if we could use stormwater to capture reuse. How do we have green infrastructure where we can use the landscape in smarter ways, especially when dealing with stormwater, aquifer recharge. So particularly now that we're going into several drought years, And we're concerned about groundwater. Is there a way that we can capture stormwater when there's abundant water on the landscape and actually put it back in the aquifer? And then storage, where can we store water that maybe could be used later for fire suppression? So these are all things that would go in our stormwater resource plan. There's two logos here, SCS Engineers and California Water Association. So Cal Water Association, we've had help from them before, particularly Rachel Kennard for our stormwater monitoring plan, pyrethroid plan. They're willing to put in pro bono work with their SCS engineers to help us develop this plan. And so they're developing the proposal that then we would bring to this committee if interested, but then eventually just the Board of Supervisors to support and start developing. I think, do I have another?
Would that be, Angela, would that be
Yeah.
stormwater that's not going into the lake?
It's any stormwater, so it's county-wide. So, you know, we do have a watershed basin that does water flows into the lake, but we also have two basins where water doesn't flow in the lake. So we have the
Okay, I just wanted to clarify
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So I
so
think-
this would be county-wide. So I put examples here for the stormwater resource plan for Yolo County, and then the Stanislaus stormwater resource plan, which is amazing. If you want to be jealous of anybody, look at that plan. They did a really great job. Obviously a little different systems than us, but it will really help us. We don't have any planning documents that tell us how we can go about capturing stormwater. So we can't get any funds. We don't have any direction for that, for any of these cool types of utilities for stormwater as a resource.
Mhm.
I see a hand up by Supervisor Crandall.
Yes, I'm just looking at where it says storage and fire suppression.
Mhm.
And I don't know. This is a consideration, so it's a plan that's to be. But just to keep in mind, maybe if we write it in enough of our plans, maybe the state or PG&E will consider it a very important asset when it comes to fire suppression for Lake Pillsbury. I know we're dealing with another end, but at the same time, the more we have it implemented in some of our documents, maybe it will kind of keep them thinking about that, if that makes any sense, when people are looking to take down that dam. Just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why this document could be useful in that aspect, because it is countywide. It's not just for the Clear Lake Basin, it's for the whole county. And a great thing to have involved, having the clean water program involved, is when the consultants are putting it together, there's some baseline things or requirements. So they have some boxes they have to check that are in this, the Water Board Stormwater Resource Plan guidelines. And that's what makes us applicable for funding, and that we have to have required by the state, blah, blah, blah. But there's things that we can put in there that would be useful for us for anything that we need locally, that then would give us that plan that exists that makes us more eligible for funding, more competitive, and actually serve some pertinent needs like justifying use of keeping Lake Pillsbury a Lake Pillsbury. So yeah, I agree with you. And part of having us all contribute to that plan is for that aspect, that we can make sure those things are included. So it helped, if we all pitch in, make it go longer, stronger, a better plan, versus if the county just strings it together with whatever funds we have or can find, then it's just going to meet those bare bones. Do you have any?
So what is there a cost? Is there a cost estimate?
I don't know yet. That's what we're working on with Cal Rural and SCS. Cal Rural Water is also working with us on another plan that will produce some information that could be used for the Stormwater Resources Plan. And so they're kind of figuring out what they're going to be doing for that. And then those things will already be done. And so they can include that in the plan. So they're putting together a proposal. And if anybody wants to be involved in those meetings, just let me know. I'll include you in any of those meetings. Chuck is from SCS and Rachel from Cal Rural. And so we're putting those together, and we wanted to present, have that proposal and the plans presented at the May meeting to you guys, if you're interested.
I'm very interested. That would be great.
Okay, so we'll have that on there. Action item for me, Daniela, is to make sure and have everything ready, all the materials for the next May meeting. And then, are there any questions from the committee first before I move on to public comment for this? Okay, so I see a hand from Betsy.
Yes, thank you. I see that on the screen, you have the Yolo County Stormwater Resource Plan. And in the earlier item, you mentioned the county of Yolo contributed to the cost of the monitoring, the post-fire monitoring. Am I correct? Did you say that? Is that correct? That you said it was the county of Yolo,
Yes, it
not
was
the flood control and water conservation district?
that is correct. It was County of Yolo government. Yeah, they were on a integrated regional water management meeting that we had, and I showed them some pictures of the cache fire and how close that was to their dam and some of their drinking water and some of their ag areas, and they pitched it 10 grand right there. So if
But
we're
didn't
worth
Yolo
1,000
Power and
birds
Water,
or $10,000.
didn't Yolo Power and Water also contribute?
They contributed labor, but they're actually don't have money this year because they couldn't make water sales because
They couldn't sell any water, yeah.
right. So they were like, any year, if it was a full water year, we'd be putting in 10 grand too. But
Yeah.
you know, if we need monitoring,
So here's
they might contribute. Yeah.
So here's my question. My understanding from years of conversations with the 2x2 committees and the different options that people have asked for, such as purple pipe and capturing rainwater off of their roofs and things like that for water conservation, is that Yolo County Flood Control and Water Conservation does not see that that we should have the right to divert any stormwater. I believe that's going to be a significant conflict, that has to be resolved before we start asserting our the claim to the stormwater resource.
Yeah, I see that. And that's why we're getting some help putting this plan together. And because it's a state requirement that we identify how stormwater can be a resource, we can, have those discussions and be a little better equipped for that. But that'll be a point, one of the stakeholders at the table will be Yolo County Flood Control Protection District for that. So we can put together a plan that we agree with. And they have a vested interest in us managing our stormwater a lot better too. Like us, they don't want floodwaters, and they need water quality, not impaired water quality. So, but yeah, that's a good point. And having the Clean Water Program Committee involved in this development too will help with making sure that we touch all those things that are important to us and aren't just the bare bone check boxes for the water board. So I'll make sure that this comes, the proposal comes before the committee on the May meeting. I think that's it. Is there any questions on this before we go to the next item? Sorry it took up so long, but very important. So thank you. Okay, so item 5, we talked about this last time, the acronym cheat sheets, and I put it online. So this is where it's located on our website. It's down here. So available for the public or anybody to access. If there's another spot it should go, let me know. But we'll have it present for every meeting in the package. So it's quick reference. And then I try to define, I'll try it a little better this time to define some of the acronyms as we go through the presentation. Any questions on that? And thank you for reminding me, Russ. This is something that we had started for a year. So thank you.
Now I got to figure out how to get to it.
It is on it is on like after the minutes in your meeting packet too.
Okay.
Attachment number 2.
Action item number 2 or
Attachment number 2. It's after the November 11th minutes or the November meeting minutes in your meeting packet. So I think page 6.
Yeah. There's about 3 different meeting packets that I downloaded. I gotta get to the one that. Anyhow, I will find it.
Yeah, we can put the link to in the chat.
If you would, that would be great.
Yeah. Status of MS4 urban stormwater sampling. So we all have a cost share for some sampling of our urban sites. We had sampling on the 25th, the 9th, the 13th, and January 4th. January 4th, we did not actually have water at the Clear Lake site, so could not sample that at the time that we went out there. And then December 13th there were some sites we couldn't sample, again, low water, but we did manage to sample Lakeport and Clear Lake, which we have agreements with you guys for that. Our season usually lasts until March 31st. We have had some storms historically into March, so let's cross our fingers. But based on that, we'll roughly say the end of the season will be March 31st, and we'll start compiling data and send out those reports. You should get them by May 30th. And that gives you guys 30 days before June 30th, which is the end of the stormwater year, to review and request any changes to those reports. But those basically we'll do the same report for us and for Lakeport and for Clear Lake, and then those will be ready to just upload into Smarts come October when your reporting is due. And then one big news, we did receive these in situ stormwater sample bottles. That's what these funky little bottles and things are here in the bottom left photo. So we will install those. Of course, this depends on the storm outlook. When the ground's really dry, it's hard to install them, and we also don't want them sitting out there for months with no use, prime for vandals. But they really do improve and speed up urban site sampling. And so it really will help us, especially because we have like 14 sites to visit, including Lakeport and Clear Lake, that we can get more accurate storm samples collected. We did order these back in like September or August, but because of all of the chain delays, we weren't able to actually get them until the whole set until this month. So we're really excited about that. And if you're wondering what those are, this is what they look like. So Permittee-Owned Pomo of Upper Lake uses them for some of their stormwater monitoring. So you can see they dig a hole, and that's where you put that case, that black case. And then the sample bottle goes into there. This is what it looks like. And so it fills up during the first flush, and then has a little stopper. So once the bottle is filled, then the stopper goes down and all the rest of the water will flow over it. So it won't collect anymore. And then you can see this image here on the right. You can see this little green drain. You know, it looks, it blends in. You can't really see it, but there's the sample bottle there waiting to collect sample water during that first flush. So it's really great. It means we don't have to go out there when there's water right there. It means we can go out there a few hours later and still get that capture. And so this was our plan all along. It's just we couldn't get these parts in time for the beginning of the season. And then we do thank cannabis tax funds for the purchase of some of these. They weren't included in your reimbursement agreement. So we got some cannabis funds to help us purchase that. And then we did a training with these with Permittee-Owned last year, and this was us out there doing that training. So there's some local use of them in place. They work, and we have some other partners that we can use as resources if needed for that. So I just wanted to share that. We're really excited for us staff that go out there and sample during those storms for these. And then this is some quick results. So this is just from the December. So this is kind of what our reports look like. And we just want to give you guys a sample of kind of what came back. So what we're looking at here is Lakeport on the top, Clear Lake in the second from the top, and then two representative Lake County sites, North Lakeport and Upper Lake. And so what we're sampling for are suspended solids. So it's just all the junk that's in the water floating around. Nitrates, that's our nitrogen. There's another species of nitrogen, the Tmdl nitrogen, and then total nitrogen is a calculation. They just basically add all these up. And then total phosphorus, which we care about as a driver of algae, cyanobacteria in our lake. So those are the three major things that we sample when we go out there to do those urban sites. And you can see for some of these things, nitrogen, we're not really seeing a lot of detections of those, which is fine. And we do see some phosphorus, and then we do have suspended solids. So there's a lot of stuff in the water. What it breaks down into nutrients that we really are interested in, we're seeing kind of small pieces of those, but just to give you some sort of comparison of what we're seeing during a typical storm event like we had in December. This is not from an atmospheric river event. This is just from a typical storm event during any given year. Are any questions about this? I just wanted to show you guys some data. You guys know we're out there, we're collecting samples. Your cost share money are going to work here. And this is the kind of data you will expect to see in your report, but more summarized and synthesized.
How do you interpret those numbers, the 74 milligrams per liter, for instance, on the suspended solids on Clear Lake?
Yeah, so suspended solids in a stream, in an urban stream, could be different than what's in the lake. The lake has a lot of stuff in it. We might see total suspended solids that are a lot higher. There's a lot of organic activity, algae, cells. The lake has a lot of stuff floating around. For the most part,
yeah.
for the most part, our streams won't really have that much. So we see suspended solids, somewhere within 100 to 200, 300. This is pretty typical for a storm event. And none of these samples were like brown. They weren't like dark brown or turbid. Those are ones we see in our streams, our upland streams like Scott Creek, Middle Creek.
I guess
Pretty
more
high.
importantly would be nitrates and phosphorus. What is it like the 50.53 Clear Lake? How high is that? High, low, dangerous?
Well, so these are in milligrams per liter, and most
Yeah.
the phosphorus that we look at is in micrograms. So for example, the TMDL that we had for Clear Lake, which is no longer in effect because they deemed it impossible, was 73 micrograms per liter, which if you look at this phosphorus, 0.32 milligrams is already very close, if not exceeding that 73 of micrograms. So that's why that TMDL, that micrograms, is no longer a TMDL benchmark for the State Water Board, because they realize that's probably not what Clear Lake ever was. But for storm runoff, we're expecting to see some phosphorus. It's interesting you didn't have any nitrogen in there, but Lakeport, you do have some ag areas. There is probably people that apply fertilizer to lawn. So to not have any detected in there at Forbes Creek, that's pretty interesting, but that's pretty good. But yeah, for the phosphorus, this is not unusual, but it is what we're going to do is continue monitoring. And as we add in more BMPs and have more improved management, we're going to see these numbers slowly go down, and we're seeing phosphorus in the system.
Is 0.41 milligrams per liter high?
I don't know for urban because we've never had sampling before.
I see.
Lakes, that's not
So we need
that
something
high, but lakes have a lot of phosphorus processes going on. Like every algae cell has a phosphorus in it. So if you put a lot of algae, you're going to get lots of phosphorus, but stormwater doesn't have really algae cells growing. So this is basically what you're getting from runoff, which could be erosion.
Same question with the nitrates.
Yeah.
0.53 for Clear Lake, is that high?
I'm not sure. I'm less familiar with the nitrates, especially with our systems. So this will be in your report. What we'll do is we'll probably give you what the basin plan
I'll wait for the
levels
report.
are. And you'll be able to see too is what all the other sites have as well. So you'll be able to see maybe there's just a region of the county that has a baseline that's a little higher. And so we'd see those ones a little higher versus part of the county it's not, or maybe some urban areas or other areas. So we don't know yet. We're just collecting this data. So I can't give you the best answers for that.
Okay.
Caught me off guard there, Russ. Jeez. Okay. Any other questions? But that's good. These are good questions because these are the kind of things we want to add in the report, and we want to make sure we have available for you guys since you're paying, for your sample at your site in your jurisdiction.
So I have two comments. Angela, this is
Yeah.
Betsy. Yeah, first of all, if you're going to distinguish micrograms from milligrams, it would be helpful to use the Greek symbol, the mu, in front of the G instead of the letter M, because they all look like the same.
This is micrograms, and this is from the lab. So the lab reports in micrograms. Milligrams. I'm sorry, milligrams. Micrograms would be reported with the Greek symbol of U if they use that. They're reporting in milligrams. Yeah.
These are all milligrams.
These are all milligrams. Yes.
They're all milligrams. Okay. The second observation is that I think what would be helpful, and maybe you can't give us that yet, but it would be, I think what Russ asking for is, what is the range when you get a blood test and they tell you blood, they will also tell you what the normal range is, low and high. And we don't have a way of understanding that low and high for this measurement.
Or
I think, is that what you're asking?
that's exactly what I'm
Mhm.
asking. That when you take these sample to the lab, when you're testing chemicals in agriculture, that it comes back with your level on the sample and what normal is and what above normal is, what is going to be harmful and et cetera. So you got to have, just having the numbers doesn't give
Right.
you enough.
Yeah, so the high and low for this, so there's the San Joaquin River Sacramento Delta Basin Plan, and that has all of those. It has the ranges of what they consider impaired, so they'd have the high range and then the normal range, and then to low what the minimum they'd see. That's what would define that. However, the systems around Clear Lake, particularly in open like water bodies, for like Clear Lake example, are a little bit different. So that's what I said, the basin plan for the TMDL wants a in-lake phosphorus. Actually, no, I'm incorrect. That's the chlorophyll. Okay, so forget what I just said. But we will provide that with the basin plan, and then we'll provide the range for what we see regionally using the stormwater data that were collected around the county. That's what we'll be able to provide that.
We'll be waiting anxiously.
Yeah. Thanks for that. No, I'm getting confused about a couple of things, so I apologize. Okay. Any other questions for this? And thanks for the comments, both Russ and Betsy, about that. That'll help us make a better report for you guys.
And I found the cheat sheet, by the way.
Yay. Okay. Next item was the, okay, we talked about this last time and we presented it and we got action and you guys approved it. But when I went back to update the letter and listen, I rewatched the video from the last meeting. We had a lot of discussion. We had some changes. And then we had some asks. You guys asked me to do something. So before I sent the letter out and made it a final, I wanted to kind of have a revisit with you guys. There's no action on this unless someone wants to make a motion to not approve it. But I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to look at the updated numbers and the updated letter. And then I'm going to send it out this week for all of the signatures. And so it is in your meeting packet. It's very similar to the letter. This is for letter of support for a new position allocation within the county of Lake, but it would be a cost share among the co-permittees for a stormwater coordinator. That would basically coordinate stormwater programming. A lot of what we're doing today, what we're talking about today, have dedicated staff to do that and to provide some direct assistance in implementation and planning within all the jurisdictions. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
On that, Angela. On
Yeah.
that, you had 3 levels for that coordinator position. Is there?
Yeah, we'll talk.
And they were just slightly different on the cost, but which one are you looking to go with?
Well, it depends on who. It depends on who get hired. So if we hire somebody who already has 25 years of stormwater coordinator experience, they would be.
You'll pay them at the top.
Okay.
Okay.
Step 3. But if we have somebody, that has 2 years experience, then they might be a step 1. So, and I talk about that in the changes, the breakdown. And just to let you know, the letter is attachment 3. And right now the number sheet is attachment 3B. But of course, when I send it to the directors, they're going to not have these numbers on there. So I made it addressed to both our county public works director as the committee directed, and remove the city managers of Clear Lake and Lakeport. And then I added, we have an administrative director in public works, Alicia. So I added her because she deals with the money. So she should be on this letter too for asking for money. Michael had some good suggestions on some language in there. And so that's what I updated, I believe, on the second page. Well, actually in the 1, 2, 3, in the 4th paragraph that starts on the first page and goes into the second page. That paragraph, he had some suggestions, so I updated some of that. And then I clarified and underlined exactly how we determine the cost share. So it's not just a 3-way split. We have to account for population, area, and then things that are 3-way splits, like time spent. And then I provided the percentages for each co-permittee. So this is in the attachment 3B. So the actual percentages for each co-permittee and how much of that total is represent the clean water program dedication or MS4 versus what the county then would put in for unincorporated areas, which I believe is 41 and 59. Yeah, so 59% of that total salary of that person would go for MS4 directed task and clean water program. And then I applied that percentage cost share to the 3-step scenarios for co-permittee. So the 3 steps are: step 1 is just the hiring level. And then step 3 would be the top hiring level. So we would hire somebody for either step 1, step 2, step 3. And I do acknowledge there was a typo on the second page of the numbers. Item I, where I only say step 1 to step 2, but it is actually supposed to be step 1 to step 3. So I'll fix that before I send that letter out, because that's the range between the 97,000 and the 106,000 for those 3 steps. And then at the very end of the letter, I did some research and dug around at some other counties and figured out what they pay for a similar position, though it's hard to tell because you can't search under Stormwater Program Coordinator. And then you never also know if it includes all the fringe and benefits, because everybody has the same HR hiring system. It's really hard to see that, but I did my best. For us, for our range, I checked with our accountant and figured out exactly what would it cost for someone that has a program coordinator designation for all their fringe, all their benefits, what we pay for somebody, like what they pay for myself or Danielle or somebody similar with that expertise for stormwater. So at least the percentage breakdown for us as a position in County of Lake is correct. The comparisons for other counties, I can't guarantee if that includes all of that extra, at least for comparison. So all we're doing is asking if you guys still approve the letter and the content with these new numbers included. There was some comments at the last meeting that the numbers I provided, which were a lot less than some of these, there was no objections and nothing really too scary, but now with the updated numbers, I just want to make sure that's still the same and just give you guys the courtesy to review that and provide any comments or additions before we approve this a final form and I send it out to you guys to electronically sign.
Angela, I have a question, if I may.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions from the committee. Sure, go for it.
So my question is, has the HR department been involved in defining the job description that goes with these 3 steps? Is there an actual specification for the qualifications needed? That kind of thing?
Nope, that would be the next step. So the first step is just asking our departments and our director to dedicate a position for this with the knowledge that the co-permittees at the Clean Water Program have committed for a cost share. And once so this is the letter asking them, can you please do this? We have committed cost share from the co-permittees, and then they would designate HR to identify specific salaries, qualifications, either make a job description, or we would add maybe another program coordinator without a specific designation. So for example, I'm a program coordinator, but I have a specific designation of being invasive species coordinator. We have a program coordinator like Daniela that's just a program coordinator. I mean, she's awesome. Daniela rocks. But you can see that there's specific, they could designate a specific stormwater coordinator, which would make sense because we have a cost share for that job description with the 2 jurisdictions. Or HR might decide to just keep a program coordinator, but in that specific job description, include the task of stormwater coordinator. I don't know how it works, but there's no point in going to HR and doing that work without having our department head approve it and want to make it happen. So that's the first step, is asking our department head to go ahead and request that information and make that allocation and put it in the budget. Whatever it would be, it'd be the, whatever that eventual salary would be. And I think I write that in the letter that we're doing our best here with the cost share breakdown, with the assumption of the cost of that position would be what I stated, but it might vary depending on the qualifications needed. Particularly if there's engineering. I think the last meeting I said if there was engineering needed, you might need to add, more qualifications and the price might go up, but also we can get contract engineers, or we have engineers on staff that we can report to. What this really is a management coordinating position. So that's where the qualifications need to be able to work well with other jurisdictions, other agencies, the state, the public, and contractors. And so that would be at least from doing some of this work, that's what I see the focus should be. Did I answer your question, Betsy? Anybody else have any questions?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, I'm just-
Yeah.
I from a management, sorry. From a management perspective, having been trained in corporate management, global corporate management, I would have a hard time agreeing to the numbers without knowing what the normal basis for that type of position would be. You know, like the Casca Stormwater Committee has been engaging, for years with the stormwater program managers that you're talking about employing. And I know we need this, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable but suggesting that this is going to be the cost when we're not sure what those qualifications would be. And I don't want to impede your progress by any means. I'm just commenting on that from my fiscal management perspective. So.
That's a good question to follow up. Where did you get these numbers for each of the steps?
So if we look on the second page of the numbers, let me see if I can. So it's has the
Okay, range of other counties.
range of other counties, but the page before that. So I took a program coordinator position that already exists within County of Lake. So that's what I am. That's what Daniela is. That's where we see, Danielle or I, if we were full-time dedicated clean water, we could manage this program like crazy. We're just not dedicated full-time. We have other programs that we have to dedicate time to. So that's where I took that initial range, that salary, that 97,000 to 106,000. And I took that from our budget. So that's what currently our budget allocates for these positions in our department. If this position would be in this department, it's up to the director to decide where that position would go. If it would be a public works position, like other counties have a stormwater coordinator, public works, or water resources, and what the specific qualifications, HR would work on, and they determine that. But then we figured out, for the hour breakdown, I went to the opm.gov and I looked at average hours worked in a given 52-week calendar. And then at the last meeting, we presented our breakdown that Daniela and my time spent in this program so far over a single year, what we dedicated to this program. And then we estimated, it's not true, but we estimated how much time short we are. So how much time we spent, about 30% of the needed time in this program of what we should do. And we justified that by showing you guys the reporting results from last year of how many things we couldn't get done in our report and how many things we marked 0 on. So that's where the estimation came from. And so based on that, then we put that towards the hours that are needed in this program to do it completely, fully, that we would, that somebody would be full-time, could complete everything in there. So that's what those are. That kind of shows that breakdown of where we got those numbers from. Could we ask HR? Sure. Would they know all these details and be able to tell us this? No, they wouldn't. So only those of us that have worked in the program and worked for several years made this estimation. Again, it's an estimation, and I can adjust if anybody on the committee needs to, or if you feel like your percentage of your cost share is too much or too little. And then of course, part of having this split position with that, we would work on what those duties would be together for that coordinator. It wouldn't just be managing clean water program. It would be, putting on trainings, going down the city of Clear Lake, walking through, how to do BMPs, what they need to do for their reporting, applying for the permits. It would be actually serving the coordinator position for the jurisdictions, not just organizing meetings. So that's why we estimated that the time that's being put in the program right now is significantly less than what's needed to be.
So a coordinator would be below a program. Let's see. Stormwater coordinator would be below a program coordinator or a program manager. Some of these other description in some of the other counties. Where is that? The duties of the storm, what you envision the duties of the stormwater coordinator to be In comparison, well, to your own duties or to some of these other counties where we're showing salary ranges.
Yeah, so these other counties are difficult because on their websites, on their stormwater websites, they'll have contact so-and-so stormwater program coordinator. And then you go to their HR to see, well, what does that position make? Like, what are the duties of that position? And there is no position, at least on their HR website. So I have to find something that's similar, which is usually, if I find that person online that says, oh, contact me, I'm the stormwater coordinator in the Department of Public Works. So I'll go to the Department of Public Works filter in their HR site and look for a program coordinator or a program manager, because they don't all have program coordinators, they all have some different name. And then I'll look up what that salary is. And sometimes they're reported hourly, sometimes they're reported monthly, sometimes they're reported annually. It's not clear if that includes their benefits. It doesn't say. So, and that's across the board. So I did my very best without spending, hundreds of hours. So this is just a rough comparison. I don't have the breakdown. Nowhere does it have specific stormwater duties. Everybody has done their, streamlined their HR webpage and their job descriptions, and they're very broad. So they have less jobs, right? They have less specific jobs, and then they fill in specific duties once the person gets hired. That's what it looks like, at least. So it's hard to make that comparison. If that's something.
Do you have some prospects that you've identified yet?
What, for people for that position?
Yeah, yes.
No. I'm not even thinking about that because I don't even know if we'll get this position approved. And then I'm dreaming about things I don't know if we can get. So I'm sure there's some great people out there. And part of this position development what do we do to attract those folks here? And this would be a great position, but I don't know any prospects yet. But there are people out there that do this work. They're just under a different title than in HR than Stormwater Program Coordinator, which our HR would have to decide that once we're directed to have that position.
Kind of a crapshoot at this point.
Russ, I'd like to comment, just if you don't mind. I've been working with stormwater program coordinators for many years. For a long time, I was the volunteer representative to the California Stormwater Quality Association stormwater subcommittee meetings with representatives from all over the state. There are some excellent stormwater program coordinators that we've been working with here. Jameson Crosby in Napa County, Terry Fashing in Marin County. I'm sure that they have a lot of information, and the network that would be available to help us find somebody would be supportive. I think that there's not a problem finding qualified people in my experience.
And it's how much is that person going to want is where I'm going with this. And we put out 3 steps there that we really don't know whether that's going to draw that qualified person or not. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that could be.
Well, that is my concern.
Yeah, I could tell it was, and you've made it mine.
That is something that we can rely on our HR to identify. And if numbers are significantly different than this, we'll come back to the committee for that. I think at this point, is this something we're interested in? Is there a cost share commitment? If it's ballpark of any of these numbers, if there are any contingencies that the co-permittees want to put on there with your support, and can we direct, if we want it in the county, if we want it within the county, can we direct our director to allocate that position or start the process of developing that position? Obviously, every quarter come back with updates to the committee if that's something the committee wants.
And if I could just say one thing, when I came to the city from the county and became the stormwater coordinator, and I literally had no idea what that was or what that involved. And the time factor that I have for it when I am also doing building inspections and code enforcement and other duties as assigned, I can honestly say that this would actually really take the pressure off of the cities in a big way, trying to man that position while doing what they're actually getting paid to do so. And again, we would then have someone who actually has more education and knowledge about this than what we do, because I literally have been taking nothing but training since 2018 to make sure that I'm doing my job fully and as well as possible.
Angela, this is
Yes.
Mireya. I'm comfortable with us moving forward with this. And if we do need to tweak the pay, that's something we can always bring back around to this committee at that time. But I know we definitely won't get anybody if we don't move forward with this letter.
Right.
I'm in support of the letter, don't get me wrong. I just don't want to be spinning our wheels for a long time by finding the person we want and then finding out that, well, or not getting any people answering the ads for the position because the salary range is low. Or not, you know, that's my concern. Ray, I am in support of the letter and for the need.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly from what Angela said, we can start with this, and if there's support at the department level, then it's going to move over to HR, and there could be some recognition at HR of comparable or appropriate salaries. Is that correct?
Yeah, and in fact, I'd probably ask HR to attend once our director has said, yes, let's go ahead and do this, to work with this committee, since we'd be positioned to serve this committee. I would ask HR to attend this committee and run through, here's the process, here's what we're going to do, here's your timeline, what job descriptions you want in there. The last thing we want is, you know, just HR putting together job description, what they think this job would be without our input. That would be my recommendation when, you know, I discuss this with our director, if they do approve the allocation of this position.
That would be good, because I totally hear where Russ and Betsy are coming from, and it is valid, because we don't want to have to post this 3 times before we realize that the pay scale is off.
Exactly.
So if we can get an early intervention with HR before it goes out for posting, that'd be awesome.
I just want to make a statement. It doesn't have to be the only avenue in order to obtain this. It's a matter of how long are we going to spend spinning our wheels looking for somebody to be an actual employee versus looking for a contract with somebody who can do the job for us. And I think that needs to be brought to this committee, whether it's by email or through, because I know we don't meet all that often, but just to kind of keep us posted where we at, just to kind of get the temperature of, are we really in a rush to find somebody, or are we just going to keep trying and trying and trying? And I know that we did that with our surveyor. We spent about 6 to 9 months looking for the surveyor, and we now have a contractor surveyor doing the job for us. And so I think that we could do the same thing, but try to minimize the timeline.
Okay, that is noted. Thank you. And I think once we hear back from our director, if there's interest in even pursuing that position, then we can make our next step and maybe set deadlines. Like, if we don't find somebody by this time, or, you know, we do contractor, or we decide, you know, put in some contingencies at that point. Does that seem reasonable?
And what I would suggest is during the conversation with HR is figuring out what is that timeline that we're willing to spend looking to hire somebody rather than contract with somebody. That way it's already kind of predetermined on what your next steps are without having necessarily to come back to us.
Right. And then that's another discussion for us, because getting a contractor, they don't do everything. So you're still having to put in some, you know, time on our side, which might require another cost share among us for some of that coordinating. So, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Are there any other questions about this? And unless there is a motion to not approve, we can move on to the next item. And then feel free, if you guys are looking over the letter and the numbers now, between when you sign, if you have questions for me, just send me an email. I can clarify, or a phone call. I can clarify anything. But expect then a final draft of this letter to go out as a PDF signature, electronic signature, And you guys saw in the letter, I wanted to get it out to our director before the 26th of February. So expect that, requesting your signature by then.
So the letter is going to go out tomorrow or the first of the week.
Yes, that is correct. Yep. And I think I'll send it. I'll let you guys know when I send it out and what to look for in your mailbox. And then for alternates, just inform your representative if they're not here, you know, if they have questions or that you are here to approve for them to sign. And that would be, I believe, you, Russell, and Supervisor Sabatier. I think you guys are the only, I think you guys are the only alternates right now. Yeah. All right. Next item. So update on Tmdl time schedule order over in January. We had to submit work plans to the water board on our Tmdl, total maximum daily load time schedule order, otherwise known as the TSO. And this was our task 4. So this was our work plan on how we plan to reduce phosphorus sediment. And so I wanted to get updates from the jurisdictions on this. For Lake County, we submitted our plan. It is available through Smarts, or you can send me an email and ask for it from us. And this is just a portion example. We just did a table and we wrote what the projects were that we have going on, when we expect them to be implemented, and what type of BMPs might be included, where the locations were. We don't have specific locations in a lot of things right now, but then we did do an estimate of load reduction. And we used our BMP calculator that EOA developed for us for some of these. And then we did include any funding sources. So these were all requirements of the work plan for our sediment reduction plan. And so we did submit ours. I think it was a week late, but we got it in there. Still waiting on feedback from the water board for that. City Clear Lake, do you updates on your work plan status?
Yeah, we submitted our work plan to Elizabeth Lee on October 6th. I never heard from her from that, so hopefully that's good. We also used the BMP calculator tool for that, or for our work plan, and it should also be on Smarts.
Great. And that was Kylie Clark for City Clear Lake, here for Addie Brown. And Lakeport, update on yours?
This is Bonnie, and yes, we submitted ours to Smarts as well. We submitted it to Elizabeth. We asked for, what is the word I'm looking for? An exclusion, because we had such minimal amount. So we also indicated that with our waterfront project that we're doing, that would clearly cover any aspect of the TMDL. So I haven't heard back from them either, but yes, everything's on there and we should be good.
So a note to you guys doing Tmdl plans, if you ever get any issues, what isn't covered in the BMP calculator is land conversion. So some land conversions can actually lead to a decrease in sediment phosphorus runoff, and some can lead to an increase. So let's say you're replacing hard pack parking lot with maybe landscaping or some green infrastructure, you can actually see a reduction. Just make sure, even if you don't have specific BMPs like a retention basin or some catch basins or anything like that, you can look at land conversion. And so if you're replacing land that's more impervious with replacing it with pervious land, that would also lead to a decrease. So that's something too to consider. EOA didn't include that in our BMP calculator because it would have been way more expensive, take a lot longer. But that is something that if you need, you can always rely on too, which could be effective. Okay, any questions from the committee on Tmdl updates? Yeah, I think we're mostly waiting for water board on a lot of stuff. They too are going through staff shortages and turnover and stuff, so. And then I did want to just give an update on our pyrethroid monitoring. We are in an extension period for that because we're waiting on the state for our QAPP approval. So the QAPP, the final version plan, and it was in your meeting packet, and it was very long. And I'm really sorry if you just went print and printed it all out. But we worked really hard on that document. We had some help from EOA. We have some help from all the staff here in Water Resources. And we didn't realize how tedious that document was going to be, and how nitpicky the state was going to be about it. And so we finally, I think, addressed everything they needed. And so it's in final stage approval, but we can't do that monitoring until we get that final document approved by them. And so just wanted to give you guys a heads up, because we did do a cost share for that. And if it looks like that cost share, those monitoring will extend past the 2023 year, I'll let you guys know, because that might, for the next budget cycle, it might impact that. So we'll give you an update on that. Hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have complete information and have the final schedule for that monitoring. For development of some of that QAPP or helping from EOA, some of the cannabis tax funds went for that. So thanks, as well as some of the work with our staff for working on that. Because I don't think we included all of that planning in our cost share agreement with you guys. So we had a cannabis tax grant that paid for some of that. Just want to acknowledge that. Any questions about pyrethroid or Tmdl before we move on to the next item? New business. We did have a training that went really well. This was the last of our cost share agreement with City of Lakeport, Clear Lake, and with EOA. And the last of our cannabis funds, we went for this training too. So again, thanks to that program for funding this. The full training video materials for this construction and good housekeeping training, and actually it has a BMP training, it was really great, is on our website down here. This is in the Clean Water Program, and then program documents and links, and it's under the training resources. So we had our calculator training, and then we have our stormwater construction training. And if you click on that, it goes to this page, which has the actual presentation as a PowerPoint, and then it has the link to the video on YouTube, and then it has the quiz questions. We had quiz questions within there. And we're hoping to have more trainings every 6 months. We'd like to have a training like this. We had great feedback from the staff. We had some questionnaire evaluation, and all the staff from Public Works in all of the jurisdictions to some planning folks and engineer folks really appreciated it and learned a lot. So we're really glad we're able to do that. And thanks to the partners for participating. And then we did get credit. So everybody that attended, I think we did at least have one person from every jurisdiction there. So anybody that attended at the training that day, you get credit for that training for our permit requirements for this year. Was there any feedback from Lakeport or Clear Lake on that for those of you that attended or watched after?
Oh.
No feedback? Oh. No? Okay. Yay.
I will say the little quizzes that you gave, by the way, it really was amusing and great to put through the thing, so it wasn't like completely mind numbing. Just saying.
Yeah, and that was help with EOA. Kristen Kerr that helped do that gave those questions and told us where to put them in. So yeah, so
made you know that they were actually listening.
Yeah, and it was great because it showed like not everybody knows everything, even though they're like, oh, I've been in Public Works for 13 years. Like, no, you actually don't know the right way to, what that means. So it was actually pretty good. Not to be picking on Public Works, they're great. Okay, so we have demonstrated the last few slides and projects about EOA and how great they are. So we have a new item for new business and asking if the committee wants to go in or think about going in or entertain the idea of a presentation at the next meeting for potentially going in as cost share for some more EOA services over the next year or two, particularly for things like LID and miscellaneous training services like we had with the BMP calculator and the good housekeeping. I did reach out to EOA, ask them if this is something they're interested, if they have time, capability to do with the same team that we've been working with. And then we have a meeting scheduled on February 15th at 1 p.m. to kind of go through some of the specific details. If you guys want anything to be included in there, if you want anything to be excluded, you want to ask anything, you can attend the meeting with us, or you can let me know and I can relay that to EOA and they can put it in a proposal with some cost estimates. And then they can present that at the next meeting in May if that's interesting to the committee. These are the things that I see that we need for. We need this LID document to be complete. I think by the time we get, if we agree to do this, we agree to contract EOA, we got to do all the paperwork, cost share, reimbursement agreements, go before the board, all that stuff. By the time we get that in, we'll have a new stormwater permit draft, at least a pretty official draft should be complete. And that way EOA will be able to then implement that into a LID document. We asked them before to do finish our LID document. And they're like, there's really no point because the new permit might change a lot of this and you'll be wasting your money. Then in addition to that, they could do some trainings with our staff, particularly our planning staff that would be actually implementing LID when they're reviewing plans for contractors and builders, and then actually conducting some outreach and training opportunities for regional contractors and those that are coming into our county that need to know what are the LID requirements. And then LID presentation adoption assistance. So we wanted to get the LID plan approved, not just by our board and councils, but also by the planning commissions. And so they would assist us with that, do the presentation, figure out how it fits in with our current ordinances, and present that. And then of course, the miscellaneous stormwater training services like we've had for this time period, but we could also make that time period longer under this contract because they're useful and we don't have to keep going through cost share agreements. So this is just an idea that would help out us a lot and meet a lot of requirements that we have to meet that we haven't been able to do yet. So if there's any questions about this or comments or concerns. No? Is this something committee's interested in? Do we want to just go ahead and ask for an action?
Sounds good to me.
And this is just to listen to intent to commit based on a proposal that will be presented with the details in the May meeting. So there's not heavy commitment right now, but it's just making sure that we're, you know, if you're an alternate, you're going to talk about it with your representative. And then if you're a coordinator, talk about it with your supervisor for potential budgetary requirements, or if there is even availability of budget for something like this, or there's a need for this. So that's what this is, just to kind of get us all ready for that.
Do we need to make an action,
I'm ready
a
to
motion
entertain a
for
motion.
this?
Yeah, it's an action item.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to make a motion to approve the intent to commit, that's,
I'll make that motion as you've said it. This is Bonnie with City of Clear Lake.
this
And I'll-
sounds like total government, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I'll second it, City of
Thanks, Rob.
Clear Lake.
All right, so is there anybody opposed? Speak now. Is there anybody abstaining? If not, I'm going to assume everybody's voting aye. All right, that's an aye vote.
Great.
Aye.
And then again, if anybody wants to join the meeting, let me know, or if you want anything added. So if you go back to your supervisors and they're like, oh, what about this thing that you haven't been able to get done? If you want it added to something for EOA to help, let me know too, so we can put it all together. Okay. So they can include it at least in the proposal before we do the vote at the next meeting for the actual cost sharing. Great. Okay. Thank you for that. So the item 7 is status and update for the Blue Ribbon Committee project funds. So we had some development on this since the last meeting. So if you recall, we had about 1.6 million was approved at the September Blue Ribbon Committee meeting. And since then, we've actually had our trash implementation portion, which was one of the tasks within that, was able to be funded because of the implementation project with Prop 68 funds. So this is about 706,000 that's coming into Lake County with the Clean Water Program. Remember, I presented these projects for the Clean Water Program, not just the County of Lake. And so with that, we're developing those contracts right now with Natural Resource Agency. Daniela is here. She is the coordinator of that project because she runs the trash work group. But what we do need is wanted to make sure that we provide opportunity, because this is a Clean Water Program funds and these should be used by the entire Clear Lake Basin, which includes Lakeport and Clear Lake, is that we need estimated trash and cleanup needs from Lakeport and Clear Lake. And this doesn't have to be super detailed, but just what are some things that would fit under this trash implementation project, particularly if you go back to your trash plan that we did in 2019. What are some things that both jurisdictions said they would do to improve trash conditions in their jurisdiction? And can those be paid for by this program or partially paid for? And really, we need a contact person for both jurisdictions of Lakeport and Clear Lake to help with planning for using the fund. So who is going to be in contact with Daniela for, when there's illegal dumps in their area and we have a contractor that can serve the whole county and they need to get a hold of the contractor and tell them where the dump is and they come pick it up? Or who do we contact if we are doing a cleanup event around the county, or somebody within the jurisdiction wants to do a creek cleanup event or a coastal cleanup event, who's going to be contacting Daniela and asking about that, working out the details so we can make sure it's all covered and we can actually get funds to you guys. And this could be for anything. So anything with illicit discharge, if there's a spill and there needs help with cleanup, you need to do some illicit discharge requirements in your permits. And maybe you want to do some just other cleanups. And then again, we talked about the dump response contractors. I think I talked about everything. Daniela, did you want to add anything to that? Because you're the main contact for this program. We just need to work with you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you covered mostly everything. And as of right now, in that budget for the 706,000, about 300,000 would be going strictly to IDDE, and then about 150,000 would be going to any sort of cleanups that would need to be happening. So I would envision any response that Water Resources or Public Works or anything like that. And then separate is if these dump sites are too large, then we would need a contractor so that would pay for their time, their labor, and then the disposal costs for everything. And this is for 3 years.
Speaking as an alternate for Clear Lake, Kylie, I think that would be probably something that staff would be taking on. So if you could let Addie know, I think that would be the proper place for Clear Lake anyway.
Yeah, I might also take on the role of the contact person since Addie is doing a million jobs. So I could probably be put down for contact for that.
Lakeport, it would most likely be me and or Andrew Britton, because he works with the Public Works as compliance officer. He may be able to come up with ideas on that as well.
Okay. So it seems like Daniela we're reaching out for that would be Andrew Britton, Bonnie Sharp, and then Kylie, and then Addie should just be on there too. So there's some continuity with staff actually within the city of Clear Lake.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then you guys, for let's say Bonnie and Kylie, go back to your teams and see what do you guys normally spend and how many cleanups do you do a year? Whether these are creek cleanups or how many spills do you respond to? I think information like that might be useful just to give an idea for Daniela as we're looking through, the budget. We want to make sure, the big thing is we want to make sure we spend this money. So 700,000 doesn't seem like a whole lot, and over 3 years it seems even less. But we don't want to run to the point where we get in the third year, we still have 400,000 we haven't spent. And so it's better to just, as we have stuff pop up, be able to, pay for them and plan for these things with the idea that the first year might be kind of troubleshooting and figuring it out. But the more information we have at the beginning makes it easier to plan going forth. And then, I'm not sure exactly what paperwork reimbursement agreements we'll need or whatever to get stuff paid for and stuff, but we can figure that out, and we're willing to do that as long as we make sure we have that communication with you guys so we can spend that money in the basin where it needs to go. So, okay. So more of the story is just communicate so we can get you guys money and help for cleanups.
I'll contact them, and then I'll contact Daniela as soon as I have information back.
Same here.
Thank you, Bonnie and Kylie. That sounds great.
And it'll help with the work group too. Just active participation with trash work group will probably just help with this also. Any other questions on that before we move to the next item? Okay, actually, no, I have more of this item, sorry. So we do have more of these program improvement funds. So there's about 900,000 left. This is in the governor's package waiting, budget package waiting for approval in May. And then we'll let you guys know. I don't know when exactly in May it's approved. Last time it was like May 5th. So that might be in time to let us know in the meeting if it got passed or not in the May meeting. If not, we'll let you guys know in the August meeting. The August meeting will have way more specifics, breakdown of what exactly got approved and how much those funds are, if it was approved exactly the way that we propose. But a lot of this funding is for policy administrative improvements to overall stormwater planning for all of our jurisdictions, whether that needs ordinance updates, you know, we need to do some policy updates, restructuring, or anything like that. A lot of those funds are there. There's also funds in there for an assessment. So actually paying some contractors to go around the county and look at physical stormwater infrastructure and figuring out which spots would be perfect for improvement, like maybe green infrastructure, different types of storm drains, retention basins, rain gardens, things like that on a big scale that have significant water quality improvement impact. So that's a lot of that those funds go for, and that's what the Blue Ribbon Committee is structured for. So look forward to that. And a lot of that, those funds, those coordinating funds would pay for part of that or would contribute to some of those funds for that coordinator position too. So want to utilize those. And then just so you know, the county did submit a request officially to the admin for some fund match for that using cannabis funds. And this was part of our deal with Blue Ribbon Committee for getting those $1.6 million funds approved, is that we would have some cannabis or some match internally to pay for anything that necessarily isn't covered by that or for staff support. And these projects all range across multiple departments, such as code enforcement, water resources, environmental health, public services, and public works. So we think it's a really good use of those funds. We do understand that they just, you know, put a freeze on some of those tax funds incoming. But again, this is for projects that would last between 3 and 5 years. So, and those are those match funds would come into place. So, and that was all in that proposal. So just want to let you guys know that there's some additional funds that can go to match to make sure that these projects are successful. Are there any questions on that? Any of Blue Ribbon Committee's updates?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, money. Okay. So speaking of money, the last meeting we did have an action item and the committee approved to go after a Caltrans cleanup grant. I did reach out to EOA. We looked at the application. Daniela attended the webinar. I attended the webinar, and it just was a lot of work. And instead, we put all our work into doing contracting for our trash implementation funds that we were guaranteed from Blue Ribbon Committee. So we actually would not have been able to get those grant materials in time for the quick turnaround for this grant. So we actually failed to apply for this, put together a package. I apologize to the committee for that. That's why I asked you guys last time to we could reach out to EOA and ask for help, and EOA was very clear and said, this is really, you guys have a better idea of what you need, and the time is really tight. And it would have been too much for our staff to be able to go after that. And we already have a lot of money for trash pickup and trash needs. So we don't have any intent to apply for these funds as now, at least for the county on behalf of the Clean Water Program. If any of the jurisdictions want to apply for them on your own for other things, please go ahead. We could write a letter of support either from the committee or from the county. But we, as on behalf of the Clean Water Program, we're not applying for these funds at this time. Just want to let you guys know that. Any questions on that item before we go to the work group stat or council presentations? Nope. Okay. So Jenny left. Bonnie's still here. I don't know. I can do this, Bonnie, alone. But Jenny did remind me before the last meeting that we have to do presentations. I did not get to them in time. We had a lot of other stuff going on, like Tmdl and pyrethroid requirements. So I wanted to update the schedule here and see what the committee thought. To create a presentation sometimes this month, next month, have some review internally with the coordinators in March, and then have a presentation to the BOS and councils then in April. We are required to do a presentation annually. It doesn't give us a certain time. So my question is to the committee, if a spring presentation is useful, because people are starting to think about the lake and water quality, or if it's something that a presentation more towards fall, when we're going to be seeing stormwater, is a better strategic time to do a presentation. Like we were getting,
I'm just hoping for stormwater at this point.
yeah, well, and that's why we were like, oh, if we make this presentation December, January, that'd still probably be fine because we're getting storms. But you know, like we talked about earlier, it's springtime here, so not really thinking
On
of
the-
storms.
On the other hand, if you're doing it more in the spring, when you're thinking of budgetary items and getting them on board for budget, it's sometimes a better idea since the fiscal year begins in July. Just a thought.
Yeah, and these presentations aren't really for asking for money. It's kind of talking about the committee, what we've accomplished. Of course, if there's things coming down, like we, you know, these are some projects, you might be seeing them. That would be, you know, in the budget allocation for this year. You know, that would be, like you said, this would be a good time to talk about that. And it is, well, think about getting outside in the lake, and part of the presentation would be making the connection between stormwater and water quality in our community.
Well, the reason why I brought it up was the fact that if we're showing them how hard at work we are doing and the things that we've accomplished in the time that we have, then when that letter comes out asking for more support to have somebody address that, it may give them a little bit more incentive to consider it than if they don't have anything to go on and it comes afterwards that we say, oh yeah, by the way, we did this. Just again,
I think that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I support the schedule, the tentative schedule that you have up on the slide, just because we haven't had an update yet. So it'd be great to get started with that as soon as you can do it without, you know, totally losing your mind. So if this is a manageable timeline for you, this would be great for the city of Lakeport.
Yeah, this is what I'm hoping for. And I'll try to stick to this, and I'll let you know. I mean, by May, I'll let you know if I haven't done presentation or where we are on that. But
I think by May, I'll already know if you haven't
yeah.
done the presentation.
Yeah. So for that, this is the proposed outline, is just talking about the introduction of the committee and who the members are, the representation, representatives on there, and then the background really emphasizing, you know, stormwater is connected to water quality, kind of describing the type of meetings we have, how frequent, what these work groups are, they're open to the public, and then how someone can be involved, and then what we've accomplished, so what we've approved and put forward, actually had some of those cost share agreements realized into actual projects and compliance and things that we've needed for a long time. So that's great. And then where we generally our funding sources are from, or you know, what they're going to be from, and then future plans and needs for this committee, and then have a question answer discussion. So that's the general outline, and I was gonna work with the coordinators, that's Bonnie, Kylie, to put together a general outline. We all kind of contribute, add in as needed for that. Not too long, but just give an overview of this. That seem reasonable to the group?
It does.
Sounds good.
It sounds good. When you're speaking to the city, particularly City of Lakeport, when you're going over future plans and needs, as far as plans or projects or upcoming deadlines, if you could just sort of highlight for our council what Lakeport's responsibility is within that versus what we're doing collaboratively, that would be helpful for our council to understand.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing to do for all of the jurisdictions.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Daniela, can you like underline that or something in the minutes to make sure that I include that? So I'll have a separate slide for future.
Yeah, I can do that.
Specific. That would be like collaboratively with the committee, and then specifically responsibility of Lakeport, Clear Lake, and County. Yeah.
It helps the council when we're sort of envisioning personnel requirements. You know, what do we need to make sure that we're able to do on our part?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Thank you. Okay. Yay. Okay, so now we're into work group status and presentations. And I think, okay, here's the slide that I had. So this is our work groups and the upcoming schedule. So I coordinate our PIP publication, or public participation, involvement participation, and then public education outreach program, and we have several citizens to participate with that. And we had a little hiatus on meetings over the last couple months, but I'm going to start again on February 22nd at 3 p.m. And then I have it scheduled every third Tuesday, so it's once a month. And this is the recurring ID and passcode for that. Last year, we accomplished some awesome PSAs. Daniela got some outreach stuff on the website. And so we have to make a game plan for this next year. And the anticipation is we have about $170,000 of the Ribbon Committee funds coming down for specifically stormwater outreach too. So part of this group might be kind of detailing, fleshing out what those, what would be included in that specifically. And so the next work group would be ConPcon, I think it's Bonnie.
Okay, so unfortunately, due to staff turnover and COVID, nobody was able to attend our meeting. So I have set the next one up for March 24th at 2 p.m. via Zoom. I'll send out the invitation 2 weeks in advance to all of the members. I'll also give it to Angela, so if she wants to post it, so any public members can attend, that would be awesome. But yeah, I'm really excited because March is when the construction time starts to really kick in, and people start getting busy. So this is a perfect time for us to get that education out to the contractors and the construction community. I did reach out to everyone at one point to get more information about getting in touch with Record B in regards to their contractor's guide to see if we could put some stormwater information and construction information in that as well, so that it would also reach the normal community, not just the construction community. So I will follow up on that in March and see what we can do. And I'll be attaching the agenda and past minutes at that one as well.
Thanks, Bonnie, for that report. Our next one is our Muni, which is pollution prevention, good housekeeping. I think it's Kylie.
Yeah, Kylie Clark with Clear Lake. We held our first meeting of the year on, I believe it was January 10th or 11th. So our main goal for this year would be to create new tools and procedures for easier reporting for the MS4 permit. So we're in the process of that now. I implemented a GIS map to track storm drains in Clear Lake, and at the last meeting shared that with Lake County and Lakeport for them to also implement a similar map and cleaning schedule for those storm drains, which need to be cleaned annually. For the next meeting, I'm creating an inspection checklist for Permittee-Owned facilities, which according to the MS4 permit should be visually inspected quarterly and have a more detailed inspection annually. So this checklist will cover both of those. And our main goal for the next meeting is to go over that inspection checklist and try to hone down on what it needs to entail. And yeah, our next meeting is March 15th at 2 p.m. If anybody in the meeting today would like to attend that or know somebody who would maybe want to be involved in that, please I'll put my email in the chat here. Please send me an email with their information so I can get the invite over to them.
That would definitely be Todd. Todd's attending this meeting. He's our stormwater inspector and planning. He should be attending those Muni meetings.
Okay.
Off.
If you want to send me an email, I'll put my email in the chat right now.
And I think I sent you his email too, Kylie, included in the invites. But
okay.
Yeah, Todd, you should attend on March 15th. The next one we have, thanks Kylie for that. And that first meeting was really good. There's a lot of things coming up that to do. And we've kind of copied you. So we made some maps of our storm drains in our MS4 areas for our public works. They were not cleaning out the drains And so now we have an agreement with them. We're gonna make some maps and some easy to use forms. And
Awesome.
and we had to do like a priority because we have so many drains, like on the order of
Right.
580 in our MS4 and 700 in our non-MS4 areas. So we had to prioritize them like priority 1, 2, 3, so they can do the first priorities first, and then the second priority and third priority, maybe in different years. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So it's great. The next work group, we have TMDL. I want to have a public meeting on our work plans, but that will be after we get feedback from the water board. There's no point in doing really a meeting talking about what we plan on doing and then getting input if we don't have the approved versions. So I really want to have that in March or April when, you know, the storm season is over. And so if I don't hear from water board by then, I'm going to reach out to them and I'll CC the representatives from the jurisdictions on there because they really need to give us feedback. Wait for months on things and then only giving us like a few months for turnaround. Like, yeah, we need to get some feedback from them. So that'll be part of that work group meeting too. So I'll send out a notice for that. So the next one we have, is there IDD? Daniela, okay. The last
All
person.
right, IDDE, we just had a meeting yesterday and it went pretty good. I went over the IDD draft plan that we had worked on for like this past year. So hopefully when we get that Blue Ribbon Committee money, we can send that to a contractor like EOA. They could review it, add anything that we're missing, and then have that ready to go and implement it. And so we know where to go. And then we also talked about the Blue Ribbon Committee funding that we are waiting for. And then about inventory and updating our inventory for storm drains and being just being more aware of where all our storm drains are and our problem areas, and then starting to create hotspots from the Callaway-S database for IDDE, and then just also interdepartment and interdistriction, like where these discharges are happening. And then, so our next meeting will be in April on the 6th at 1:30. And then I also have the trash, so I'll just skip down onto that. And then our last meeting was just this on Tuesday. And we kind of just brainstormed community cleanup events. And then we talked about Coastal Cleanup Day. That'll be in September. So we're starting to brainstorm ideas for sites, site locations, if we need dumpsters and site captains. And that's about it. So our next meeting will be in April as well for trash.
Great, thank you so much. I do want to make sure for all of our work group coordinators that we try to do a little better job of advertising these work groups. This is where the public is supposed to be involved. And I also, you know, I forgot to put this meeting on Facebook, so I admit I kind of forgot that. And so, but as part of the public participation work group, I want to make sure that we advertise as much as possible for these events. So if now that I have all the dates in here, I'll put reminders in my calendar, but also if it helps too, if you remind me a week before, we can make a post for these and give the public information on how to attend and what they're about. And that way we're meeting our public involvement requirements for that. So just letting you guys know ahead of time. That'll be a goal. I want to advertise some of these meetings a little more for the next year. Any questions on work group status, presentations, upcoming meetings? Okay, getting to the end here. So all the meetings this year, they're second Thursdays of the month. Our next one is May 12th at 2 p.m. And then some important dates, just a reminder, we do normally have pyrethroid wet weather sampling. It's supposed to be between January and March, but we're still waiting on feedback from water board. So that schedule might change and might start the next period, which would be March through June. And then we're still doing MS4 urban sampling, and we'll be continued in that season until March 31st if we get rain, whenever we get an event. So fingers crossed for that. No real deadlines on things yet. Are there any questions on the meeting, next meeting here? Nope, okay. Public comment, I think we had some of our public comment folks drop off. think we had Terry here for a moment and then,
Yeah, I think we ran out of members of the public.
yeah.
Except for office. Please.
We lost him. All right. So I think that's it. Is there any other things from the committee before we adjourn? Let you do that, Maria.
I would just remind everyone that one of the things that we need to do for our annual report is the trash assessments. I'm doing mine in April and taking photos, so you might want to consider doing that since we have to do it in spring and in fall.
And this is the right year for that? It's all the even years?
No, it's all odd years.
Oh,
Is it the
So
odd
you're-
years? I do mine every year, so it just keeps me, so I don't ever forget.
okay. So I think in our report, we said we do them every other year because we had like staff shortages, there were events and stuff. So I think technically we're obligated to do it every other year in the even years or odd years. But if you're doing it every year, then yeah, and you're correct. You want to do one in spring and fall. So
You'll probably have really good data, Bonnie, for getting your like community cleanup events going for the Blue Ribbon Committee funding with those assessments.
yeah. Yeah, so that's a
Anything to
to Daniela is any of your tracks where you have not an A grade or where you see some trash, maybe those are areas we need to plan to do cleanups. And so that could be, give that to Daniela and you guys can, and then that might help, when you're planning those events, because then we can get materials or dumpsters or something like that with those funds.
That sounds good. And I usually do send Daniela a few photos and the actual assessment sheet so that she sees what we're.
Yeah, but you should look through them and see which of the area, like just let her know if there's like 3 areas that probably need trash cleanup and here's where they are to help her just kind of put those down versus like 10 areas or 1 area. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
It's a cool picture.
Yeah. Looking at the Grisby Riffle, that's it right there.
Yeah.
What controls every
Neat.
our lives is
Yeah.
that weedy, gravelly, ugly looking patch right there. Where somebody threw a pumpkin in the.
Huh.
And yeah, so this is where we took some post-fire samples. You can see the water's really low. So we have to pick some spots around here where there's actually some flowing water. It's well mixed and it's, more than a few inches. So good. So
Well, thank you very much, Angela. This has been a packed meeting.
lots of stuff. Yeah, thank you. And you're free to adjourn whenever you want.
All right, that's it for today. Thanks, everybody, for coming. We're going to adjourn.
Thanks.
Right.
Nice to
you.
see you, Maria.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Okay.
you.